Today we're going to spend some more time digging into the spaghetti dry brushing technique, actually building gradients by progressively increasing the values of the tones we're going to work with. I don't know why anyone would want to use a mini drill to paint, but if you're tired of the same old painting techniques, maybe, just maybe, the spaghetti way is for you. We're going to start with the usual Montana black that I like so much. I'm excited to paint this model. I want to give the Stormcast a Hollow Knight color scheme, but for the Gryph, I want it to be red. I think a purple undertone will enhance our blue and silver, while visibly contrasting with our red and gold. I know for this step I always use my Pache Talon, but I have many airbrushes that are excellent for the job, and the Badger Patriot 105 is one of them. Now for detail, we're going to work with the Gaahleri Mobius 02. I actually worked a lot with this airbrush over the past few months. After reviewing the flagship models for Badger, Steenbeck and Iwata, all manufactured in different countries, Gaahleri seemed like the natural next step. This airbrush looks great, but it is actually any good? We'll see about that. I didn't apply a zenithal highlight this time, so I'm going to use eye coverage paint for this step. Now that I'm fully invested in Atom and Ionic paint, it's hard to work with anything else. Combined with their thinner retarder combo, they just perform amazingly. For Atom paint, I'm mixing 2 drops of paint for every 5 drops of thinner, and for Ionic, 1 drop of paint for every 5 drops of thinner. I'm just going to say it, I love this airbrush. My overall judgment of an airbrush comes down to how easily it allows me to achieve detail. And as you can see, without masking tape, I stay within the shapes with little to no overspray. It's responsive, consistent and predictable. So predictable that I can focus more on my aim than on the trigger control. It is also very forgiving when it comes to dilution. Of course, a full review will be coming soon. For the metallic parts of the model, say hello to my little friend. I tried this marker in my last video and was so impressed with it. I think it's going to be part of my process for a very long time. The coverage is amazing, 1 layer and you're done. I still want to try something new. Since I'm using a Gaahleri airbrush this time around, I'm going to test these Gaahleri markers for the gold accents. That's impressive. Look how bright that gold is. The coverage is excellent, but it's the finish that really stands out. It's so bright, I'll need to tone it down a bit. I know what many of you are thinking. Why don't you ever use a regular brush? It looks like I'm trying to avoid it. And you will be absolutely correct. I have nothing against the regular brush, but I get bored easily and I want options. And I want to show you those options as well. I'm going to intensify the shadows early on, before the spaghetti gouache wash and the dry brushing process. Basically, I want to start from a lower than usual value and build up the gradients from there. Inks are ideal for this step. I want to maximize the contrast as much as I can. The sooner I do it, the easier it's going to be later. Like I said, I really need to tone down that gold. There are many other metallics in the Gaahleri set, and I'm excited to try them all. Alright, before moving on, I'm going to mix my usual varnish combo. 2 parts of matte and 1 part satin. Like always, I use Liquitex because it's thin and works great in a general use airbrush. Of course, I'm not using the Mobius for this step. Instead, I'll go with my trusty Pache Talon with the 0.66 needle and nozzle. Now, let's get into the spaghetti gouache wash. For this, we need Liquitex acrylic gouache. I'm using 2 washes for this step. One made of black and red for the Gryph, and one of black and blue for everything else. In a small cup, I'll mix the paint. 50% distilled water and 50% retarder, until it looks and feels like a thin wash. A transparent retarder like Createx is ideal for this step. I avoid thick and milky ones like Vallejo, primarily because I want to spray this wash through my airbrush. But you can also apply this with a regular brush, no problem at all. I'll spray the gouache wash evenly and generously across the model. Big needles like the 0.66 of the Talon make this easier, but don't worry, you can do this with virtually any airbrush. After spraying, I'll use makeup sponges to gently wipe off the excess paint. And just look at the result. This works so well because the Liquitex acrylic wash can be reactivated with water for a short time. That gives us enough time to clean up without leaving marks. The retarder helps by giving us even more working time. And the reason why I'm so specific about the paint? Because Liquitex acrylic gouache is actually an hybrid. It's not a pure gouache. It reactivates in the short term, but once it's fully cured, it stays put like acrylic. That is exactly what we want. I know, I've already explained this, but I want to make sure that anyone new to the channel understands why this is happening. I'm using specific brands and mediums because I've experimented with them, and I know what works and what doesn't. I don't want people to get confused and maybe buy supplies they don't actually need. Finally, after the sponges, I use makeup applicators with a bit of water to clean small details and remove the last bits of extra paint. And now we can begin the spaghetti dry brushing. I'll be using my Melody Suzy, a rotary tool for nail artists. The battery on this thing lasts forever. It's very powerful, and because of that, I have to run it on its lowest settings. Who knows, maybe the company will watch this video and say, we didn't think about that, and come up with a specific product for this. They'll probably just have to change the name, and I'm sure they're going to give me credit for it, right? I'll grab some microdental brushes, super cheap on Amazon. I'll trim the tip, insert it onto the rotary tool, and we're good to go. I'll load the microbrush with the oil paint I selected, wipe off the excess on a paper towel, and fire up the rotary tool. The trick is to let the spinning motion do the work, just a light touch against the model surface. The layers will build up smoothly and blend right in. I love doing this. It basically builds up the gradients and blends the layers in one step, without the need for multiple glazes in the easiest way possible. Still, I'm going to push the complexity further this time. While I usually micro dry brush the model with a lighter tone and call it a day, this time I'm purposely starting from a lower value and building the gradients layer by layer with progressively lighter tones. That's just to show you guys that while I use this method to achieve good results quickly and stay within the realm of speed painting, you can push this technique as much as you want to achieve some incredible results. I'll be curious to see what some artists could accomplish with it. If you're going to give it a try, please reach out and let me know how it goes. Oh, and the layer of varnish we laid down earlier? It has more than one purpose. It safeguards the paint job if we get a little heavy-handed, and since it's mostly matte, it gives the oils a good grip on the surface. Now that the spaghetti dry brushing is done, I'll tie everything together with more blending. For this, I'll use the Mobius again. I'll thin down some opaque paints to around 5–10% and spray light coats to smooth out transition and bring back a bit of color. I'm not just restoring saturation here, I'm adding extra interest by waving in extra tones across the surface. I love this step so much that I know it will always be a permanent part of my process. As I mentioned before, there is something about the Mobius trigger action that makes it very predictable. When I pull the trigger, after a very short travel, I feel a slight resistance, almost like a single action airbrush. And at that point, the Mobius starts releasing the smallest amount of paint. It's always the same and it's always consistent. It really feels like some kind of paint initiation assist, reducing the chances of overspray. And that's why lately, when I start a new project, it feels like the Mobius is calling me from the wall. I'm very pleased with it. I will get into more details on the airbrush review. While I'm at it, I'll punch up the shadows using transparent inks to add some depth. Because I'm using mid-tones and lighter tones to blend, I may have increased the value of certain areas that should remain obscure. This step will correct that. For the final polish, I'll switch to acrylics and hit the model highest points with refined highlights. Some of you may notice that I'm progressively expanding my range of Ionic paint. I'm very happy with Atom, but I believe Ionic is a step above. The coverage is exceptional, and the self-leveling properties are a game changer. I've watched many reviews comparing the two ranges, making obvious distinctions like thickness and concentration, and often stating that Atom is better for airbrushing, while Ionic is better for the regular brush. Well, I'll tell you, as someone who has worked with both extensively, once properly thinned, the two behave exactly the same in the airbrush. With their respective thinners, the paint mixes easily and quickly inside the cup. Both perform exceptionally well, especially at low pressure for detail work, which of course is what I'm most interested in. The dry tip effect is so minimal that sometimes I just forget to clean the tip, because the airbrush keeps spraying with no delay. I've worked with and owned many other ranges like Citadel, Vallejo, Pro Acryl and AK. Nothing wrong with those for regular brush application, but for airbrush detail work, even with their dedicated airbrush lines, they just perform poorly. As of today, in my humble opinion, none of those come close to the airbrush performance of the Atom and the Ionic lines. They just do everything I want them to do. They also eliminate the need to buy two separate paint ranges. Just my 2 cents on the brand. And from here, you can keep pushing as far as you want. It totally depends on how much time they want to spend on it. And that's it for today. Thanks a ton for sticking around through the whole video. If it was helpful, give it a like, subscribe and join me to become the fastest airbrush slinger in the West.